Welcome back to Echoes of the Saints. Throughout the history of the Church, we encounter many lives that began far from holiness. Lives shaped by ambition, pleasure, pride, violence, or the search for recognition. Yet again and again, the saints remind us of one profound truth. A person's past does not have the final word. Moses the Black discovered that even a life marked by violence could be transformed through repentance. Mary of Egypt found redemption after years spent seeking fulfillment in worldly desire. Camillus de Lellis abandoned a life of gambling and self-indulgence to become a servant of the sick. Margaret of Cortona experienced conversion after a life shaped by attachment and loss. Augustine of Hippo searched for truth in many places before finding rest in God. Their stories reveal a mystery at the heart of Christian faith, that grace does not wait for perfection. It enters the lives of those willing to turn back. Because sometimes the greatest distance from God is not crossed in a single moment of emotion, but through a quiet awakening of the soul. A person begins to see that what once seemed important cannot fully satisfy. The heart begins to ask deeper questions, and slowly, a new direction begins to appear. Today, we continue this journey through the life of a woman whose story carries the same message of transformation. Saint Pelagia of Antioch lived a life that appeared complete from the outside, yet within her heart, something deeper was beginning to awaken. This is the story of Saint Pelagia the Penitent, a journey from visibility to humility, from admiration to repentance, and from the world's attention to the silence where she found God. Antioch, the world of beauty and visibility. Antioch was a city alive with movement, streets filled with voices, music, commerce, and the constant admiration of beauty and performance. In that world, Pelagia was known, not for silence, not for obscurity, but for visibility. She lived in a society where appearance carried influence, where crowds gathered, and where identity was shaped by how others perceived you. From the outside, her life appeared complete. She was admired. She was recognized. Her name was known throughout the city. But attention has a strange power when it becomes the center of a person's life. It can surround someone with admiration while leaving the heart untouched. Over time, what once appeared to be success can begin to reveal its emptiness, not because the world has changed, but because the heart has begun to see differently. Pelagia reached that moment quietly, not through collapse, but through a hidden awakening, a growing awareness that nothing external could fully satisfy the longing within her. And in that quiet tension, something began to take shape. Not certainty, but a question. A question that would eventually open the door to another life, one she had never imagined, and one she could not yet understand. Life in Antioch. The cost of attention. Antioch was a city alive with movement. It was a place of theater, public gatherings, and constant activity, where reputation was shaped by presence, appearance, and the attention of others. Pelagia lived within that world. She was known. She was admired. She was part of a culture where charm, beauty, and performance influenced how a person was perceived. But a life built around constant attention carries a hidden cost. When identity depends on the gaze of others, silence becomes unfamiliar. And when admiration becomes ordinary, it can slowly lose its power to satisfy. Over time, something began to shift within her, not suddenly, but gradually, like a realization forming long before it could be expressed. The world around her did not change, but her perception of it did. What once seemed fulfilling began to feel insufficient. What once appeared important began to lose its hold on her. This is often how inner change begins, not with dramatic events, but with a quiet separation between outward life and inward reality. And in that space, Pelagia began to experience something she could not yet name. Not rebellion, not escape, but restlessness. And it would not leave her alone. The encounter with Nonnus. One day, Antioch became the setting for a moment that quietly changed the direction of her life. A group of bishops had gathered in the city for teaching and preaching. Among them was a man known in tradition for his spiritual seriousness, Nonnus of Heliopolis. Unlike the usual crowds that surrounded her, this gathering was different. It was no longer about beauty or applause, it was about truth. According to tradition, Pelagia heard him speak, and something in those words unsettled her, not with passing emotion, but with a deeper conviction, as though a truth she had long avoided had suddenly become impossible to ignore. Nothing in her external life had collapsed. No crisis forced her to change, but inwardly, stability began to weaken. There is a kind of conviction that does not shout. It simply reveals, and once it appears, it is hard to silence. For the first time, Pelagia faced a question she had never truly asked before. Not about her life, not about her name, but about her soul. And that question stayed. The turning point. Pelagia did not change immediately. Conviction often begins quietly, as a tension between the life one is living and the truth one can no longer ignore. She continued her life, but something had shifted. The world still responded to her as before, but she no longer experienced it the same way. A distance had formed, not between her and others, but between her and the life she was living. At the center of that distance was a growing awareness that her life could not remain unchanged forever. According to tradition, this inner struggle gradually became a decisive moment, not public, not dramatic, but deeply personal, a turn inward, a recognition that something essential had to be surrendered if something greater was to be found. It was not fear that moved her, it was clarity. The realization that a life built only on what is seen cannot last forever, and that something deeper was calling her beyond all she had ever known. Once that realization took root, it began to guide her steps, slowly, but irreversibly. Renunciation and leaving the world? According to tradition, Pelagia eventually made a decision that marked a decisive break with her former life. It was not a reaction to crisis, nor was it forced by circumstance. It was a voluntary turning, a step taken with clarity rather than confusion. She left behind what had once defined her identity, the admiration she had received, the status she had enjoyed, and the life that had shaped her public reputation. were no longer the center of her choices. What she abandoned was not only external, but internal as well, a way of seeing herself and a way of being seen. There is always a cost in leaving behind what is familiar. Even when a life no longer satisfies, it still holds memory, habit, and attachment. But tradition presents her decision as complete, not gradual adjustment, but decisive departure. From that moment forward, her life was no longer shaped by visibility, but by withdrawal. She embraced a path the world would not understand, a life of repentance, simplicity, and separation. And in leaving behind the life she had once known, she did not find emptiness. She found direction. Hidden life and transformation. After leaving her former world, Pelagia withdrew into a life of concealment and repentance. According to tradition, she no longer lived as someone defined by public attention. Instead, she chose a path of obscurity where her identity was no longer shaped by the eyes of others. At first, silence is not peaceful. It is unfamiliar. When attention disappears, the mind slowly adjusts, and the heart begins to face itself without distraction. Memories return, awareness returns, reflection deepens, but so does clarity. Her life became simpler. The external noise faded, and what remained was an inward transformation, slow, steady, and real. This was not escape. It was change. A movement into a different way of being, shaped not by appearance, but by repentance and inner renewal. What had once been shaped by the eyes of others was now formed in the quiet of the soul. And her life began to take a new direction. Final transformation and legacy. In the final stage of her journey, Pelagia's life had fully changed direction. According to tradition, she lived in hidden repentance and spiritual discipline where outward recognition no longer mattered. What defined her was no longer how she was seen, but how she lived before God. In some traditions, her repentance is linked with spiritual guidance under Nonnus of Heliopolis, though details vary across accounts. What remains consistent is the message. A life once centered on visibility became a life centered on repentance. A life once shaped by attention became a life shaped by surrender. The tradition does not focus on external achievements in her final years. It focuses on transformation, from instability to clarity, from identity in the world to identity before God. And it is here that her story finds its meaning, not in what she was, but in what she became. A reminder preserved in early Christian memory that no life is fixed forever, that change is always possible, and that a life turned toward God is never wasted. The story of Saint Pelagia the Penitent is not only a story of what she left behind, it is a story of what she discovered. A life once defined by the attention of others became a life transformed by the presence of God. What the world considered important slowly faded, and something deeper took its place: humility, repentance, and a heart renewed by grace. Pelagia's journey reminds us that no person is trapped forever by the past. A life can change direction, a heart can awaken. And even after years spent seeking meaning in the wrong places, God can still call a person toward something greater. Her story remains a witness to the power of conversion, that true beauty is not found in being admired, but in becoming who God created us to be. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Saint Pelagia the Penitent. If this story inspired you, consider subscribing to Echoes of the Saints for more stories of faith, courage, and transformation from the lives of the saints.